You're not Ryan. I'm Matt.
I'm Vince.
And I'm Danny.
Danny's stepping in for Ryan this week. He'll be back next week.
Okay, let's get into this episode.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
In the 7th episode of Legend of Korra, The Aftermath, as Mako and Bolin move into the Sato mansion, Korra suspects that Hiroshi Sato is collaborating with the Equalists. She informs Chief Beifong and Master Tenzin, who launch an investigation but find no evidence. A source tells Korra that Hiroshi has a secret factory underneath his mansion, used to manufacture brand new weapons for the Equalists. When Korra, Tenzin, and Beifong discover the secret factory, they are attacked, and realize that they were lured there into a trap. Mako, Bolin, and Asami arrive in time to rescue them. Due to the failure of this operation, Chief Beifong declares that she will resign her position as Chief of Police, and continue to pursue Amon with her metal benders outside the law.
Okay, so I think it's pretty safe to say that we all freaking loved this episode.
It was amazing.
So let's just dive right into it. Vince, what were your favorite things about this episode?
The fact that Amon and Hiroshi Sato are making like a robot army. I don't know if you've played the game BioShock, but they look exactly like the Big Daddy characters in it.
On the internet, someone had posted some screenshots from the very first episode of Legend of Korra with Amon looking at his map. Also, there was blueprints of robots on the wall. And there was also conspicuous red wire going up to the ceiling that we also saw at Hiroshi's factory in the episode that we meet Hiroshi.
I did not expect there to be a full-on robot battle against the Benders, and
This early on in the series? I mean, come on.
This episode kind of had a Crossroads of Destiny feel to it. This is the kind of stuff I was not expecting to see until, at the very least, the season finale, if not the series finale.
Well, they're building up Team Avatar right now. You know, more and more people are joining. I really think Tano is going to join, judging from what we've seen in this episode. And Asami is probably now on Team Avatar. So we're getting all this whole mixture of people. It's gonna be like a love hexagon.
Danny, what did you really like about this episode?
I really liked the introduction to Asami's character. We haven't really had a lot of character development with Asami other than that she is Mako's love interest. And we get to see her drive around a racetrack just with this, like...
She's badass.
Yeah, just this look on her face like, yeah, I'm winning.
Did you get a little Speed Racer vibe in there?
I did.
I don't know, for me it was such a weird scene. Like, it just with the whole rest of the episode, like, I don't know, I just didn't expect that to exist in this world.
It was interesting to see more of the world. I was kind of getting a little bit sick of Republic City.
I loved getting to see that she was just this really, really strong woman character, I guess, because we really only see Korra as the main strong woman in this show.
Korra never had to make a decision to choose between her family and what's good. I mean, how do you make that decision? I mean, like, that's gotta be so tough.
I had a feeling that it was going to come down to something like this, especially with that theory about Hiroshi being involved with Amon and the Equalists. And what I was never sure of was, is Asami in on it with him, if he is in fact, conspiring with Amon, or does she not know anything? And personally, I was rooting for I hope she's ignorant. Not only because I really want to like her, but because I think that makes a much more interesting story, that it forces her into that conflict.
For the entire time, I thought that Asami was in on it, because if you look back, and I think it's the Spirit of Competition, after all of them are together, after Korra gets that triple knockout, Asami and Korra are talking, and, like, Asami has this really, like, I wouldn't say, like, sad or guilty kind of expression on her face when she's talking to Korra, so you thought, maybe she knows something that we don't. But it turns out she knows nothing.
She knows nothing.
And if you take it back farther, in this episode, I found myself wondering, was Asami running into Mako
a coincidence?
A
kind
coincidence,
of
thing? Right, exactly.
Or
It
was
wasn't.
it planned?
But I mean, they were building up this episode to be that, to reveal that Asami knew everything that was going on. And after they revealed that she didn't, I felt bad about myself. I was like, I'm sorry, Asami, I judged you for the wrong reason.
But yeah, where she takes the glove, that's where it was totally like Crossroads of Destiny, where Zuko's standing there between good and bad, and you're going, no, Zuko, go with your uncle, open up the tea shop.
Maybe it's just me. I always want to see it, even though Zuko eventually turns to the good side. I wanted to see it where he just like punch you in the face, Azula. I'm joining Team Avatar.
Yeah,
it happens eventually, but
right.
I wanted to see it in the Crossroads of Destiny. We basically got to see that
Which is why it was really satisfying in this episode to see her just flat out like, no, my dad is evil, and I'm gonna do the right thing.
And she takes initiative. She goes down there and says, "Dad, like, stop," even though they were like,
right,
"Woman, wait up here."
right. We all kind of knew that was gonna happen, but I'm glad. Yeah, again, that's one of those things that I think we're all happy that it played out the way it did.
I'm excited to see her fight on Team Avatar.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
because she's gonna be the chi blocker for Team Avatar. They have a chi blocker on the good side now.
And hopefully it stays this way. Hopefully she doesn't have a lapse and goes back to the bad side. My favorite thing about this episode was the ending and the setup for the rest of the season, if not the rest of the series. Particularly Lin Beifong. We get to see more of her fighting, and we get to see a lot more of her character. We got to see more of her working together with Tenzin. Tenzin airbending and going like crazy, going to town with his airbending.
Oh god, I love that so much.
But yeah, the big moment at the end was the whole, my honor, I have failed the metal bending cops. Vigilante Justice Lin Beifong, can it get better than that?
We already got Batman with Korra, and now we got Spider-Man with Lin Beifong. I mean,
check out our videos if you haven't seen those.
Yes.
And, yeah, on that topic, how we mentioned that this show was maybe going to be kind of a superhero show or have more of a superhero comic book vibe. This episode falls directly in line with that. You got the police searching warehouses, and you've got companies making shady deals with each other. You got vigilante justice all over the place. This is a comic book Avatar. For me, the one main criticism I had with this episode was Hiroshi Sato. I had a little bit of a hard time believing his turn to evil. It was really jarring to me, and maybe it's one of those things where they've done it for time. Like, this wasn't a character that they really wanted to spend trying to develop too much and because the ultimate goal was that he needed to be working with the bad guys. We've mentioned the fast pace of the show and how they need to get things done and they need to move, but I think this was one of the examples where it maybe hurt the show a little bit.
So the one problem I've had with this episode, and also Legend of Korra so far, has been that every character that's lost a family member or just someone they know in their lives, it's been from a firebender, like at the mercy of a firebender. And I know in the last series the firebenders were the antagonists. It seems like they're still kind of trying to carry that over into this series. Like the season 3 of Avatar showed that it's not all black and white, and the firebenders in the Fire Nation are not bad people.
When you're looking at the crossover from a world of firebenders being the bad guys, it still they have to have some time to get all of them back over to the good side.
Why couldn't one of their parents been murdered by a rockbender? Or
a rockbender? You mean an earthbender, right?
No, by a member of Korra and the Rockbenders. No, but no, I get it. I mean, like, is there? I mean, you open up a whole new can of worms with this argument by going, is there something inherently evil about firebenders? There aren't. I mean, but like, does it just produce more evil people? Is it like Slytherin house in Harry Potter?
I mean,
like,
I guess so.
It's just like, not everyone in Slytherin's bad. Professor Slughorn's a good guy, but like, there just happens to be more jerks in this house, you know?
And
like,
it's an easy crossover for us as viewers to going from Last
like
Airbender
adapting
to Legend of Korra.
yeah.
It could be it's a psychological thing that it was easy for them to just do that because we're already trained to kind of think that firebenders are bad, even though we've seen that they're not all.
And I mean, if they're like, my wife was killed by a waterbender.
Really? Why didn't you stop them?
I felt like they could have just said they were killed by a bender, and they could have just moved on. They didn't have to explain it. Like, why did it have to be firebender? That's all I'm saying.
Right, but okay, at this point, Amon was screwed over by firebenders.
Mako
and Bolin were screwed over by firebenders. Could it have been the same one?
I mean, maybe...
Is that possible?
It could be a coincidence. Why not? I mean, it could be that they're all linked up for some reason to something.
The one thing that I had a problem with in this episode was when we look back at Avatar The Last Airbender, we see that the cabbage guy is constantly getting his cabbages ruined by bending.
Right.
And now the Cabbage Corp guy is getting tossed around by the Equalists. So
he could never fit in a modern society. It's just not going to work out for him.
He doesn't belong in Avatar.
Somehow, though, he made it up to a corporation. I don't know how that happened, but funniest thing I've ever seen in the history of television is a cabbage guy standing there with his cabbage statue. Like that?
Yeah. I'm imagining that was one of those rags to riches stories that we're never going to be told. We just kind of have to figure out on our own.
I hope they do a side episode.
If not, some hilarious fan fiction needs to be made.
We had an episode about Appa's Lost Days and episodes from Momo's Present. We could get a Cabbage Merchant episode, please. Please, Avatar.
Okay, they have 26 episodes to work with. Do we really want to throw one out there? You really? You're willing to give up an episode for the cabbage guy?
Yes.
Viewer response time, guys. Let's go.
Okay, so in the last series, we had a lot of kind of fun names for Team Avatar. We had the Aang Gang and whatnot, and it kind of looks like we're at the beginnings of a new Team Avatar forming up at this point. So, Danny, do you want to take this question this week? All right.
So this week's viewer response question is, what is your most creative name for the new Avatar team?
Leave us your best responses, and the funniest and most creative will be in the next episode.
All right, now let's look at the responses from last week.
Helloland wrote, "The analogy between the real world and the situation in Republic City is in my opinion quite clearly the rise of communism. Charismatic leaders like Lenin and Mao talked about equality and the ideal world where no one is better than anyone else by the merits of their birth, but in reality the political system they proposed were nothing like the idyllic ideas of Marx, but a tyrannical dictatorship that simply shifted the power to a new kind of upper class." Mackillor wrote, "Nazi Germany and Amon. He's singling out a group of people not based on what they did, but the threat they could do. If Amon takes over the government, what's to stop him from gathering up all the benders, after all he has the means to do so, and neutralizing each one?" Pegasus Pirate wrote, "I feel that the equalist movement is almost like a cult. Both movements are led by a strong charismatic leader who convinces his followers that he is chosen by a higher power to help deal with their problems. Also, Amon, like many cult leaders, uses his hold over his followers to persuade them to do his bidding." I Am Stiggish wrote, "In my opinion, you can't compare the events of this show to one singular event in history. Just like you can't compare Republic City to one city, it is based off of three. Like a platypus bear, I believe that the events taking place are a combination of different things. Amon's propaganda reminds me of Hitler's rise to power. The advancements in non-bending abilities remind me of the arms race. And the class warfare reminds me of the recent Wall Street protests."
All right, so that was your first Korracast. Thanks for what do you think? That was fun, yeah.
It was fun, yeah.
Yeah, you said you'd do it again sometime, maybe.
I think the production crew might be better for me.
Really?
Oh, come on, Danny. Pabu wants you to stay. Come on, Danny. Stay on Korracast. We love you. Please, Danny. Danny.
We're never gonna see her again.
No.